Goolum is a community-based organisation for the local Indigenous people. We provide allied health services. We have 2 practice nurses, Aboriginal health workers. We have currently been looking for a general practitioner for a number of months. We have HAC services that support our disabled and aged. We have a youth justice program and community justice program to base a secondary intervention with regards to diversion of the criminal justice system for our community. We have an AFDM program which is about protecting our children and ceasing the removal of our children into child protection. We multitask, so we provide a number of services that we're not funded for, and particularly youth services. So we intervene in the schools to try and support and create retention within the school framework. And we provide a lot of welfare or social and emotional wellbeing programs, and we take our time out to try and strengthen our community with the resources we have. Goolum doesn't receive a significant amount of funding for youth, so anything that we receive from government, we become innovative and somewhat manipulative. One of the programs that we did utilise and enhance the capacity of our young people had been a chip repair program, which is community housing. A friend of mine came from Melbourne who's a builder and contracted a lot of our young people. Our young people engaged extraordinarily well because he was around their age group, he was prudent, and he was from a culturally diverse background, so it gave him an acceptance of people outside the country. The program enhanced their self-knowledge, their self-worth, their beliefs, and also encouraged the question why, which as an organisation we encourage. When our young people cease to ask why, they cease to learn. The young people encouraged themselves by peer support and mentoring, and they became fiscally prudent. So the money they earned, they purchased push bikes, cars to get to work on time. We encourage these young people to encourage the occupants, who often were family members, to maintain a level and a standard of occupancy, to resist the urge of going back to the old style of needing urgent repairs. And that became a basis of community support and encouragement. Goolum is very firm on sustainability and economic development. We're not after a handout, and neither are the youth. They're after a hand up. Unfortunately, programs for education often don't encourage our young people, and they withdraw from schools. So employment initiatives through mainstream often don't meet the standards or the requirements of our young people because they don't have the basic competencies of literacy and numeracy. Our initiative that ran for 12 months provide kinetic methodology of learning, and then we encourage them through staff of understanding the purpose of reading and writing, numeracy, and how that transfers into the employment fields. We have been lobbying government for the last 2.5 years because we've registered another organisation, Tukeni Inabara. Tukeni Inabara is about developing dreams and aspirations in our youth, and we're looking at achieving sustainable enterprises and micro monopolies within our communities to develop kit housing that is ecologically sustainable and orientated to our community's needs, so it merges into our environment. We can basically build these properties at around 70 to 80,000, a 3-bedroom property, where currently the government funds a 3-bedroom property for 300,000 under its National Partnership program. We can do better, the community can do better, and it can withdraw from needing public monies if we're given an opportunity to participate in the economy. The basis of our frustration is the lack of awareness of the region that we cover. One of our greatest disadvantages is the transport infrastructure. Horsham is moderately well transported, but we also service a 16,000 square kilometre radius. Now, for Victoria and current federal government, they don't believe we have a remote area. But when you're having to travel from places like Berwick that are 3.5 hours away, Donald, where you have a lack of resource and infrastructure, and you have young people aspiring to great things, government doesn't acknowledge the requirement to outreach and engage these young people. We have been lobbying both levels of government and local organisations in Horsham and our catchment areas to mentor our young people. We firmly believe that to close the gap, to engage, to change our community's position, the disenfranchisement, the intergenerational trauma that's been a part of our lot in life, is to base our children, our youth at the nucleus of our initiatives and work our way out. To base our youth at the nucleus is to strengthen our community and strengthen our resolve to accomplish what hasn't been accomplished in the past. And that is stemming away from welfare, moving away from the belief that we can't, we don't want to, we're discouraged from it. We believe firmly that we in partnership can accomplish so much in this area. We have written within our enterprise proposal acknowledging that we don't know everything and we need support, that we have a reference group. Our reference group will be made up of our mainstream counterparts and our peers. Lawyers, accountants, builders, tradespeople who want to give Indigenous young people a go. But more importantly, give them a go so they can take over, so they can become the future leaders of our people, of our country, and they can participate as equals. And this is the same standard that everyone else in this country deserves and often takes for granted. Actually, I can recall one of the success stories. We had a young person who has had some offers and worked, but hasn't been able to sustain his employment. Engaging with his peers and his fellow Koreans of the community, he was encouraged to get out there and aspire to something greater. He had a lot of adversity that he had to overcome within the family framework. He had a great deal of responsibility. Regrettably, during the period of his work, his father had died, and he picked himself up by the shoes and the socks, and he sought a traineeship after the cessation of our program. Now, this is one success story. We could have 38 success stories. This is a young person that will come back and be a part of the leadership if we can get support to get the funding, to get the power, the strengths, the pillars to sustain Te Kēnti Borough. Because it's not about welfare, it's about taking responsibility for themselves, taking responsibility for their community and encouraging their community to strengthen themselves, and building housing, a basic and fundamental right of providing sustainable housing that immerses itself within our environment and looks after the environment through its ecology.